And then it was time for our main event of night one. And again, I got to be honest with you, they should have made Rhea and Charlotte main event. And I thought tag title match, lights out match. After this, I think they should have just reversed the order because it was a happy ending either way. You didn't want me to talk about happy endings anymore.
I don't think the audience would have reacted the way they did to the Rhea Ripley match if that was on after this. Because of the way things have been built up, you couldn't have something after the big pop of Sami and Owens getting their win.
Yeah, true. It was such a much better match. I'm not even going to knock Sami and Owens here. You just knew that the French Canadians were going to pull something out, some death-defying stunt or whatever. I want to like the Usos. I love this story so much. The Usos, to me, I don't see great tag team. There's nothing wrong with them, but I don't see great tag team. I don't see Midnight Express. I don't see Tully and Arn. I don't see Rock and Roll Express. I don't see Bulldogs. I don't see Heart Foundation. Maybe it's part of that they've been presented, as I said before in the program, as Roman's flunkies in a lot of cases, in a lot of confrontations. And part of it is that they have the modern style of working, but would you say either Uso is really a really sharp, accomplished, I'm not talking technical wrestler in terms of mat wrestling, I'm talking about the execution of all their shit is smooth and crisp?
Not necessarily, and I think the Bloodline storyline has been great for them, and they've been excellent in it. They've had some really good matches, but there aren't a lot of Uso matches I've been a big fan of. I was never a big fan of their in-ring stuff as much as I've loved everything else with them recently.
They ain't FTR in the ring. But unfortunately for FTR, they were in the main event at WrestleMania, whereas FTR is in the main event over at fucking Cocaine Tony's place. Anyway, they started the match. They quickly cut Sami off and started getting heat on him because, again, that's what his best quality in the ring has always been to me, even back in the El Generico days, as a babyface selling. That's where and fighting back. That's where he shines. And the drunk leg, stagger walk, dish rag body, he's fucking great. And they started slow because after all the fans had seen, they needed to keep a place to go at the end. So they put this together well early on. You know, again, they gave Kevin a tag so he could make a comeback. The first comeback he made was on the floor, where he just splash him on the floor and then get back in the ring. And it's hard to make a comeback on the floor that earlier in the match, but he wanted to save his big comeback for in the ring. We saw that later on. So anyway, then they cut Kevin off because they're going to get some heat on Kevin. And there were a ton of super kicks and top rope splashes in this match, to be honest, a lot of them. And it went back and forth. And again, they cut Sami off again and worked him over in multiple super kicks. And this was the point where they started having a more modern match. And some of the things took me out of it. Like they did the thing where while they're 2-on-1 against Sami, Owens is on the floor somewhere out of sight forever. What the fuck? I couldn't even remember what had happened to him last. I was like, is he dead? People would come back from fucking multiple sclerosis quicker than... But they have to wait for their spot. That's a modern match. I can't even remember a match in the territory days where the fucking partner just goes down to the floor and lays there for minutes at a time. They're either taken out or they get, it distracts me because I keep looking around for fucking dipshit. Where is he? Where is he? Anyway, as soon as the Usos go for the 1D, that's where Owens appears fresh as a daisy and foils it suddenly. So they double choke slam him through the desk. He's gone again. At least he's got a reason to be gone then. And then they hit the 1D on Sami and get a 2 count, but he kicks out. And they beat up Sami some more, and finally Owens struggles to the apron again. Hot tag. Now he makes his big comeback. And again, a lot of false finishes with a lot of super kicks. The people are up. Everybody's doing super kicks. They like them. And finally, the Usos both come off the top on Owens. Cover, 1-2 count. Big pop for the kick out. And then everything comes to a halt again. And then one of the Usos and Kevin get in the corner and have a little conversation where they remember what's going on. And then more super kicks. Now, I guess that's what I'm saying is that they have to do such intricate, convoluted, complicated shit over and over and over in the modern style matches, and or eliminating one or more of the participants for long lengths of time, that it takes me out of it, because I know the people are loving the chaos, but I'm sorry, I just naturally follow a match for does it make sense, because that was the most important thing back when you had to actually draw money on your own. Anyway, so Sami then throws Jimmy over the desk, and Owens hits the fisherman suplex off the top rope onto the other Uso and tags Sami, and that's a big pop. And Sami gives Jay the big haluva kick, and again, and a third one. Cover 1, 2, 3. And big celebration because they did. And you could tell they were both broken up and emotional, because there they are. You know, Fat Ass and Forrest Gump sitting there in the ring in front of 75,000 people at a stadium just main eventing WrestleMania. So they were legitimately touched. And you could tell. So the people, that was the right result. It was a good match. People loved it. Little modern for my taste in spots where they just take the liberties. But overall, exactly what they needed to do. Don't you think?
It's the result that I thought it had to be, going into what I think has to happen tonight as we are recording, and I think we have to go into Raw with the Bloodline having lost all their championships. And then we see what happens with Roman and the rest of the family. Do they abandon him, or does he turn on them? But a good first night of WrestleMania. This match, I think, had to be the main event. And I think that they gave the people what they wanted. It took, for me, a little bit to get into it, because the Ripley-Charlotte match is an all-timer. That match was incredible. And it's like following Steamboat and Savage. How do you follow a match like that? By the end of this, they got people really into it. Too many super kicks for me. If you squinted, this is like what Owens and Zayn versus the Young Bucks could have been. But I thought it was a good match.
But at least the Usos are grown adult men.
That's true.
That does help.
That's true. But I thought it was a good match, and I thought the last few minutes were really great just because the fans were really into it. And the haluva kick, whenever I've read it in print, I thought it was the hell of a kick.
Well, I think that's part of the rib. It's spelled like that. But, you know, I guess El Generico couldn't cuss because he was involved with the orphanage in Mexico.
I think the reason I don't like it is just it sounds like something Excalibur would say, the haluva kick. So I just don't want to say it. But by the time he hit the third one and Jey Uso's just standing there, his head is like, slouched down. It was a great moment. And it ends WrestleMania Night 1 on the right note. In the old school way, the traditional way, I guess, WWE used to like to send people home happy. They did so here this night.
Well, and sometimes that's what you need to do. And I'll tell you what, I made a big mistake in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in my booking when we had built remember the 3-team 9-man street fight, Bobby Eaton and Tom Pritchard and Stan Lane, the Heavenly Bodies against Robert Fuller, Jimmy Golden, and Dutch Mantell, the Stud Stable against the Rock and Roll Express and Arn Anderson. And all three teams hated each other. And we had that big 3-way street fight at the Bluegrass Brawl. But 2 weeks later in Knoxville and Johnson City, we were doing a 3-way tag match for the belts. And I thought, well, goddamn, if the babyfaces win this street fight, then the heat's going to be off the heels going into Knoxville and Johnson City. So I had the Bodies fuck the Rock and Roll and then come back to and it just in the building, it was a great match, but the finish would have been an all-time pop. And instead the heels winning deflated the people. I should have given them the fucking babyface win and then done something either heat after or even just let it go with that and done something else for television before the next big shows. But I did sometimes you have to give the people what they expect to see and what they'd like to see. You can't give it all to them all the time, or then they get placated because they always get what they want. And then if they weren't mad at the heels and they're not upset about anything, there was no reason to fucking go. You're not going to go buy a ticket to see the fucking babyface lose. That'd be insane. So sometimes you have to give the people what they expect, even if it's expected, or they lose faith in whether they're going to see it the next time they want to pay to see it or not.
So to put a bow on night one, looking at the results, would you say that the results to the matches are exactly what they should have been? Other than the matches you didn't pay attention to, like the...
Well, yeah, and that nobody would give a shit either way. Yeah, the 4 teams or whatever. No, yes, everything we were talking about, unless this is going to be an ongoing thing where it's going to continue with Cena and Theory. Theory needed to win, and he did. Ray beat Dominic, which he should have, but at the same time, that doesn't hurt Dominic's heat because he's that type of heel that he can lose and keep it. Rhea definitely needed to win the belt from Charlotte. That propelled her a step up. And as we've mentioned, if not even, I didn't know whether they ought to take all the belts at one time, but obviously this is going to be part of the story that they're going to be telling. So, but you couldn't fucking beat Sami and Kevin, especially on last in this particular instance, because that would have pissed people off. So every finish was what it should have been.
I can't even imagine what it would have felt like if they had ended this show with the Usos winning.
Oh, no. I can't even imagine that was in serious discussion. So,
yeah,
ever.